The wind howled like a pack of beasts across the empty stretch of highway, and the snow whipped so hard it stung my face. My little boy, Daniel, clung to my arm, his thin jacket no match for the freezing night. The headlights of my parents' car glared like hope at first, cutting through the storm, but that hope turned to something I would never forget. "Dad, please!" I called, waving my arms as they slowed down. "The bus broke down. We've been walking for miles. Daniel's freezing. Just give us a ride home." My father leaned across the seat, his hand lazily resting on the wheel. His voice came out like poison. "You think gas grows on trees? You can't even provide for yourself, and now you want us to waste fuel on you? No, stay where you belong, out here. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video." Daniel shivered against me, teeth chattering. "Grandma, please," he whispered, his little voice cracking. My mother's face appeared in the glow of the dashboard lights, lips twisted in disgust. "This is what happens when garbage breeds garbage," she sneered. "Your sister deserves warmth, not you. If we take her, that's worth it." "But you?" She leaned closer to the window, her voice sharp enough to cut skin. "Let the wolves pick you up." My sister, Clarissa, sat in the back seat wearing a fur-lined coat that sparkled under the dome light. She smirked like a queen looking down at peasants. "You hear that, loser? Even nature doesn't want you. You'll make a nice little snack out here. At least you'll finally be useful." She laughed, a sound that still makes my stomach twist when I remember it. The car idled for a second. Daniel gripped the piece of cardboard he had been carrying since the bus stop, a small sign with his school mascot on it. He had made it for the trip we never made it to. His lips trembled. "Mom, I'm scared," he whispered into my side. I wrapped my arm around him tighter, hoping my strength could shield him. I begged again, pressing my hand to the cold glass of the window. "Please, don't do this. He's just a child. Take him if not me." My father's eyes flicked down, cold and cruel, before he pushed my hand off the glass with the door. "Every dollar, every drop of gas belongs to your sister, not you, not him." The engine roared and the tires spat snow as the car pulled forward. For a heartbeat, I thought maybe they'd stop again. Maybe their humanity would kick in. But no. The red taillights glowed like twin demons disappearing into the storm, carrying my parents and my sister away, leaving Daniel and me in the icy dark. Daniel's legs buckled and I sank to my knees, clutching him against me. The wind ripped at us, dragging my hair into my eyes, and I could barely hear his small voice over the storm. "Why, Mom? Why don't they love us?" I had no answer, only the sharp, hollow ache in my chest as I pulled him onto my lap and rocked him like he was still the baby I once cradled, whispering lies I wanted to believe. "We'll be okay. I'll get us home, I promise." My boots crunched through snow as I lifted him back onto my hip and started walking. Each step felt heavier than the last, the frost biting into my skin, but the thought of his blue lips kept me moving. The storm blurred everything, sky, road, even hope. But I held on to one truth. My parents had left me to die, and that memory burned hotter than the cold. We stumbled until we reached the faint glow of an abandoned service station. The windows were cracked, the roof sagging, but it was something. I kicked the door open and carried Daniel inside. The air wasn't warm, but it was shelter from the storm. I tore strips of cardboard from broken boxes, layering them as a makeshift bed, pulling Daniel close beneath my coat. He whimpered in his sleep, clinging to me. My frozen hands brushed his cheek, and I swore in that moment, through cracked lips and bloodied knees, that I would never let anyone reduce us to wolves' food again. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, my son breathed in fragile, steady gulps. My tears fell silently onto his hair as I stared into the dark. They thought they'd abandoned me for good. They thought I'd stay broken. But something in me shifted that night on the floor of the old service station. I wasn't just a daughter anymore. I wasn't just the one they left behind. I was the storm now. The blizzard didn't kill us that night, though it tried. The morning sun came weak through the broken windows of the service station, casting light on Daniel's pale face. His lips were cracked, his tiny hands stiff from the cold. I pressed my forehead to his, whispering, "We survived. They wanted us gone, but we survived." Those words became my anchor. Surviving wasn't enough anymore. I knew I had to turn their cruelty into something they couldn't ignore. The next weeks were a blur of scraping by. I found work cleaning at a roadside diner, scrubbing grease from counters, washing dishes until my knuckles bled. Daniel stayed in the corner booth, coloring on napkins with half-broken crayons the cook gave him. People pitied us, sometimes slipping me food, but pity was a thin blanket against the fire of rage inside me. Every night when I tucked Daniel onto a thin mattress in our drafty rental room, I replayed that night on the highway. My father's face when he said, "Let the wolves pick you up." My mother's sneer, "This is what happens when garbage breeds garbage." Clarissa's smug little laugh in the back seat. The words etched themselves into me like scars. They thought they were untouchable, sitting in their warm house, drinking expensive wine, raising Clarissa like royalty. I didn't want their pity. I didn't want them to love me anymore. I wanted them to choke on the life they thought they owned. One night, I overheard two truckers at the diner talking about my father's business, how he bragged about his contracts, how he used family as his brand, painting himself as a man who took care of everyone under his roof. The lie made my stomach twist. The same man who left his daughter and grandson to die was selling himself as the picture of loyalty. And that's when it hit me. Revenge didn't have to be fists or fire. Revenge could be truth, sharpened and aimed right at their softest spot. I started small. I collected everything I could. The unpaid bills he dumped on me before I left home. The texts my mom had sent me calling Daniel the burden child. The voicemail where my dad shouted, "If you died tomorrow, the world would be better off." I saved them like weapons. I didn't post them, didn't scream them. I held them, waiting. Clarissa, meanwhile, flaunted her perfect life online. New coats, new parties, dad buying her a car, mom praising her success. But the cracks showed. I saw comments about my dad's late payments to workers, whispers about arguments. Their empire wasn't perfect, and I would be the one to split it wide open. But before the strike, I needed strength. I enrolled Daniel in school, even if I had to walk him in second-hand boots through slush. I worked 2 jobs, saved every cent, hid it where no one could touch it. Each time exhaustion threatened to swallow me, I remembered that night. The cold on my skin, the laughter fading into the storm. It fueled me more than food. Weeks turned to months, and slowly I built a different kind of armor. I wasn't the daughter they abandoned. I wasn't the girl begging at a car window. I was a mother with nothing left to lose, and nothing is more dangerous than that. The breaking point came when Daniel asked, "Mom, can we ever visit Grandma and Grandpa again? Maybe they'll like me now?" His eyes were so hopeful it broke me in ways the storm hadn't. I pulled him onto my lap and whispered the only truth. "They don't deserve you. But one day, they'll know exactly what they lost." That night, I began writing letters. Not begging letters. No, those days were gone. These were precise, calculated, lined with every word they had ever used to spit me into the dirt. I crafted them carefully, making sure that when the time came, their own voices would be their undoing. Revenge was no longer just a thought in the dark. It was breathing, living, waiting in my hands. And when it came, it wouldn't be about exposing them at some fancy gala or making their reputation crumble in front of strangers. No, it would be personal. It would cut exactly where they had cut me. They had laughed in the storm, but the storm was still inside me, and soon it would come knocking at their door. The day of reckoning didn't arrive with fireworks. It came quietly, like the way snow first covers the ground before a storm. Daniel had grown stronger, taller, his cheeks fuller from the meals I worked my hands raw to provide. He laughed again, not the hollow whimpers of that night in the storm, but real laughter. And every time I heard it, it was a reminder that my parents hadn't broken me. They hadn't broken him. But the debt of their cruelty still hung heavy, and I was done carrying it. My father had built his image in town on being a provider. He sponsored school fairs, cut ribbons at events, shook hands at church, always bragging about family first. The same man who pressed my frozen hand off his car window and drove away. That hypocrisy was his crown, and I was ready to tear it off his head. I didn't walk into his world screaming. I walked in smiling. One evening, after saving enough to buy a second-hand camera and a printer, I began sending out envelopes. Not to strangers, not to news outlets, to the people closest to him, the pastor he bragged to, the clients he wooed, even Clarissa's fiancé's family. Inside each envelope was nothing more than his own words, a printed transcript of the voicemail. If you died tomorrow, the world would be better off. A screenshot of my mom's text. Why feed your son when your sister's kids deserve the meat? And one photo Daniel had drawn of us walking in the snow that night, 2 small figures under red taillights disappearing. At the bottom, in my son's handwriting, I had written his words. Grandma, please, I'm scared. I didn't need to add commentary. Their voices, their cruelty, did the work. The fallout was instant. My dad's contracts started drying up. People stopped shaking his hand at church. Clarissa's fiancé's family pulled back, whispering that they couldn't align with people like that. My mother tried to claim I faked everything, but everyone knew her sharp tongue too well. The more she screamed, the more they believed me. But the real revenge wasn't public at all. That was just the first crack. The real storm came when I showed up at their doorstep, Daniel standing tall at my side. My father opened the door, his once proud eyes hollow. "What do you want?" He spat, though his voice trembled. I stepped closer, holding Daniel's hand firmly. "I want you to look at him. Look at the boy you left to freeze in the snow, the boy you called trash, the boy you thought the wolves would pick up." Daniel lifted his chin, his voice steady. "I'm not trash. I'm stronger than you." The words hit harder than any weapon I could have used. My father flinched, my mother's face twisted in something between shame and rage, but neither spoke. For the first time, they couldn't. Their power was gone. I didn't need them to beg. I didn't need them to collapse to their knees. I just needed them to see that the daughter they tried to erase had returned standing taller, with the very child they wanted to discard alive and unbroken beside her. I leaned in, my voice a whisper sharp enough to cut. "You called us garbage. But garbage doesn't walk back stronger. Garbage doesn't survive wolves. We did. And now every time you sit in this house, every time you see your empty chairs, you'll remember exactly what you threw away." Then I turned, pulling Daniel with me. The snow crunched under our boots as we walked away, their silence trailing us. For once, it was them left stranded, not on a highway, but in the wreckage of their own cruelty. My revenge wasn't about ruining their reputation or dragging them to a gala stage. It was about survival weaponized, truth returned like a mirror, and making sure the weight of what they had done sat on their chests for the rest of their lives. And as Daniel laughed beside me, the sound filling the cold air, I knew I had won. Not because they cried, not because they fell, but because I was still standing, and they were the ones left with nothing. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.